Hi folks, I'm Dennis Duffy with Loyalogy, and I'm here to talk to you about a step-by-step process to help restaurant companies develop customer loyalty programs. It's been our experience that when we work with restaurant companies early on in the process, that they often get an idea that they want to explore loyalty, and that's either an internally generated idea based upon looking at the competition, just wondering if it can be beneficial to them and their business, or if the process is started based upon one of the technology companies that sells or licenses loyalty technology comes calling on them and talking to them and getting the idea started. And we find that that usually leads to some meetings and a lot of discussions and ideas and so on, but often they're uncertain on how to get from point A to point Z in a methodical way to get beyond just having conversations to trying to figure out A, if it's right for them, and B, if so, how to get a program developed and in pilot. So what we've found is that this 8-step methodical process that we use is very beneficial to help make that evaluation and get a program developed and launched. So the 8 steps are as follows. First of all, definition of objectives. Second, research. Third, concepting. Fourth, technology definition. Fifth, financial forecasting. Sixth, naming the program. Seventh, operational and marketing planning. And then eighth, the launch of a pilot. So let me take you through these one step at a time, and you can use this as a checklist if it's something that you're going to try to do internally, but if you need some help, this is what we do. Give us a call, contact us at loyalogy.com. So first of all, the definition of objectives. There's a couple of no-brainers. You do these programs because A, the program itself makes a difference, but B, the data that you get from the program helps you do much more effective and measurable targeted marketing that generates incremental behavior on top of the loyalty program itself. In the short run, that means incremental visits because you get more visits from guests that already come to your brand but also do some other dining in the category. And the longer term benefit is improvements in long-term retention, which keeps more guests in the fold, which means that your new customer development activities build on an already stronger base. So that's the first phase, definition of objectives. You want to make sure everybody in the organization is on the same page so that you don't have any misunderstandings a few steps down the road. So that's the first step, definition of objectives. Second step is research. Research is not as expensive as it used to be. There are a number of very effective online tools. We use one called Survey Gizmo. There's also SurveyMonkey and Zoomerang and others. And you do that, you put that together with your email list. Everybody's got an email list. And we put together a survey to get real guest input. Too often companies go down the road without asking guests what they want. I'm not talking about wide open-ended questions. I'm talking about a very well-defined, structured survey. The first thing we do is come up with a list of 15 or 20 potential benefits in a program. Do you want to earn points for free stuff? Do you want to have sweepstakes? Do you want to have surprise and delight? Do you want to get a newsletter? Do you want to have a smartphone app? Do you want to be able to donate things to charity? And a long list like that. This is the time to put the whole kitchen sink in there and get the guests to rate those in terms of how appealing they are on a 1 to 5 scale. Other things we do are we go right out there and we ask them, tell us the extent to which if we launched a loyalty program, a rewards program rather, they think about it as rewards, we think about it as loyalty. If we were to launch a rewards program, how likely is it that you would visit our restaurant more? Ask them to do that on a disagree to agree scale, 5-point scale, and you'll get a sense of the percentage of guests who say that, you know what, we'd give you some more visits if you had a good program. We ask other questions like how many other restaurant dining programs do you participate in? What do you think they do to your behavior based upon that? Get some demographic information. We also ask you, how many times in the past 90 days have you dined with us? And how many times have you dined with others in our category? So that gives you some good data for doing some of your financial forecasting to do sort of answer some of the questions about what's the opportunity? How many visits are we not getting in our category? Because that becomes the opportunity that factors into the incremental numbers that you put into financial forecasting. So that's the second step, which is the research. So the third step now is concepting. So now you have good input. You can take the input that you have and define a program structure based upon what you know about how these programs look. We've all looked at plenty of programs in the marketplace, even if you haven't launched one or run one. but based upon that and the insight that you get from this customer research, define what the program might look like. You can always tweak this a lot later, but you have to get to the point where you define it enough to figure out how the technology is going to work, then to estimate the costs to figure out if you're going to do this or not. So you get it to a good enough point, and you also think through how would it operate in the restaurant. You know, there are companies that have somebody fill out an enrollment form. It's picked up by the server rather. They're either mailed a card or they get one right on the spot in the restaurant, or there are some that just hand out cards. There are some that charge fees, and then you take your card and you go home and register it online and you get a bonus and so on and so forth. You've got to sort of think through some of those things. If you already have spoken to some of the technology providers, or if you work with a company like Loyalogy, we help you sort of sort through a lot of that stuff. So that's the third step, the concepting. The fourth step is technology. You have probably either been called on or had some conversations with some of the technology companies, and so it's time to make kind of a tentative choice based upon what you want your program to look like, which service provider can do that, and which do you feel most comfortable with. So now that helps you get to the next phase, which is the forecasting phase. So now that you know what the program is supposed to look like in stage 3, you kind of have done your tentative choice on technology in stage 4. Now in stage 5 you can do financial forecasting. And that's based upon what are the incremental costs, there's the rewards, there's some of the operating costs, there's the technology cost, and then there is the incremental revenue. Based upon the research that you have some sense of how many times a guest visits you, how many times they visit others in the category. You can make some assumptions about the incremental, run a pessimistic, realistic, and optimistic scenario. And that gets you to the point where you can make a go, no-go decision on whether or not to do this. So that is the forecasting phase, and you're able to make the choice now, and if you're going to move forward, then you go to the next step, which is naming. You do some brainstorming on names, you create a long list, you narrow that down to a short list, and then you ultimately choose, you know, a handful that you might put out to research or make a final choice. Then you develop an operational plan, which is what are the kind of things that have to be trained in the restaurant, what kind of marketing and collateral materials, how will you announce this program, and so forth. And then finally, the pilot launch. Typically you do it in one restaurant, work out the operational kinks, figure out how servers can best articulate it to guests, kind of work out the flow, make some corrections before you go to a larger pilot and or a complete rollout. So that's the step-by-step process. If we can help, contact us at loyalogy.com. I'm Dennis Duffy. Thank you very much.